Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Magic and Miracles with Kathi platform. And this is your host, Kathi Reed Myers. Here we have a gorgeous Black Friday day, right? I like to call it Bold Friday just because of the connotation with black. I don't know, call me silly, whatever, but I'm following the prompting because today is another unique day on the interwebs. And for the purpose of me coming on with all y'all, I have a specific agenda that I'm supposed to cover. Beyond that, I'm just going to fly blind, right? You that know me, know me. And that's what I do best, is just not try to analyze, not try to figure, not try to overthink. Just say it. Just do it. Just step out, right? So that's what I'm doing. So the main agenda and the purpose for this call is I was shown for myself, and that's always my best example. You know, when things are brought to my memory from the past and used as a launching pad, as a place of connection for you, so that you can just follow the thread. You can follow along, and then your own heart, you will feel how best to pursue for yourself, right? What line of thought, what actions to take for yourself. So, and I'm not really sure how far back to go. The agenda for this call is, I had no idea what a victim was. Like, you know, watching movies, watching TV shows, there was always, you know, the person that was really the standout, did everything right, the heroine, the hero, right? And then there was the underdog and the one that everything always went wrong. And, you know, I never saw myself as that, as either extreme, really, except when I revisit experiences that I had in my childhood, and I'm supposed to just revisit and explain them to you briefly. Because on one hand, I was always very positive, very definite. Like, you never had to wonder how I felt about stuff. My opinion was right out there. My emotions were always on my sleeve. I was never, I never had to work up a feeling. Like, how am I going to feel about this? It was, my dad used to say, Kathi Joe, tuck in your heart. It's showing, it's on your sleeve, like tuck it in. And that was like, that's been the mantra of my life. So right along with that, and I'm just going to hit these little bullet points, and you can put them in a category that fit for you. I was never wrong. Even if I made mistakes, even if I was really wrong, like, shame on you, wrong. Like, I should have felt guilt and I didn't. I should have and didn't, because I was always right. I always rationalized. I could twist things in my own estimation of an incident to where I was right. It always, you know, made sense. And I always came out on top to myself, even when I wasn't talking to anybody else about an event, right? So these are just like background illustrations for you to consider as I proceed. When I was very young, I knew I was different. And keep in mind, I've got a preface right here, because we all have a lens that we grow up with. We see things, we hear things based on what we're here to learn. what our soul is here to experience. This is my opinion. This is what I take from all the evolving that I've gone through, all the lessons that I've learned, how I perceive my world. And as a child growing up, I would experience emotion. I would experience events unlike anyone else in my family. My siblings, my parents. It was like, were we there? Was it? Wait, this was a family reunion. I was there. That didn't happen. That's not what was said. And it didn't take long for me to really feel like, wow, I can't really trust, I'm pretty off. Like, if how I remember things, it didn't happen that way, then I shouldn't feel this way. I can't trust my decisions. I better check. I better make sure that I'm accurate. Right? And that's how my journey began. And that's how my, follow the trail of events as you grow up. That was the springboard for me. And very quickly, I was scared. I remember as a young child, I didn't like to be alone. I didn't like to be alone in my estimation of events. I didn't like to be alone in my thoughts. I liked the feeling of group. We're all, and probably this is how I perceived my upbringing, because we couldn't make individual choices for our lives. We were a family unit, and we used to call them family council meetings, where the family would decide decisions for us individually. So we had the security, air quotes, right, of a group consensus moving forward. It wasn't just me. I wasn't just responsible, independent, free thinking, free will choice. No. We were a family, and that was supposed to provide security and a feeling of I'm right because I'm not alone. Right? So it was group validation. Anyway, and I'm going to skip a lot of detail around that. I'm just hitting these high points for you to feel as we progress. I was not, my family, we used to joke. I would make fun of my youngest sister because she was naturally blonde. I was naturally dark-haired. She was always opposite from me. So I made fun of her, and I was older. And I made fun, and I would say, you were adopted. I don't know what you think you're doing. You don't even really belong in this family. And I wasn't always real kind, right? And anyway, I don't know what lasting trauma that did to her. But as we've aged and as, time has gone on, it's almost like it's flipped and it's exactly opposite. Even down to our Ancestry.com results that we took, we did our DNA, whatever. It didn't even put us in the same family thread. I didn't have any bloodline with the rest of my family. I didn't get suggestions that maybe you are part of this. No. It's like, oh. So, and I kind of joked about that, which really isn't very funny. But, and some of these, maybe you can tie in, maybe not. Maybe this is just for me to ramble and connect dots and keep moving. All my family were very, very talented, very gifted in their own ways. We were all gifted musically. And that is a unanimous across the board in different ways. I was not gifted vocally with music, but I had a gift and a passion with the piano and with a love for balance and instrumental and what weaving music in with a vibe of a church service. Or if you need to cover up voices in a choir because they're so bad, I could make lousy choirs sound amazing just from how I played the piano during their performance, right? So, and just to recap real quick, we were raised in a very, very strict traditional church happening. And so that is my context. So anything I talk about, that is it. My family were very competitive. They were very much into sports. They were very coordinated, athletic, like, oh my gosh, like off the charts. My dad he loved basketball, loved all sports, loved football games, loved my brother, like just all of them. They all skied. They all did water skiing. They did every kind of sport in the world, and they were so good. I was not, like, at all. It was crazy because at one point, and maybe this started the air quote victim happening in my world. The first time that it was really pronounced was when I was away at a children's kids camp for our church. Every year they had a camp in the redwoods of Northern California, gorgeous setting, and I got to be away from home, and it was yes, and I got to be able to be around boys, and yes, and it was just all that, and it was so. And they had midnight hikes. Oh yes. Right? All the things that just lit me up. And it was spiritually it was very, how do I describe it? There was a feeling with all these kids and with the camp counselors and the speakers and you could feel a spiritual connection at these camps. And I can still remember them. And I went to more than just one, and it wasn't just kids. They had the youth, and then they had the adult camps, and they would just be at different times of the summer. So when I was 7, I believe it was when I was 7, I went to this kids camp, and they had a daytime hike. And those were the days when pants were not allowed. You always had to wear dresses. Girls had to wear dresses. And which was fine, we weren't rocking the boat back in those days. Like, we just did what we were told, and that's how it was. And okay. So we went on this hike, and in Northern California, it was always wet. Rain was often. And if it wasn't raining, it had rained. So it was always wet. On this hike, they put cardboard down on the area where the hike was taking place so that people wouldn't slide in the mud, they wouldn't slip and fall, right? It was a safety thing. So here we are on this hike, and I slipped and I fell. And I didn't think it was any big deal because I didn't notice anything. I didn't really feel much. It was embarrassing as all heck. And I was always taller. I developed very young and fast. I haven't grown. I'm probably 5'5.5", and I hit my height when I was 12. I topped out at 12. So at 7, I was well on my way to being close to the top height, and that was considered tall back then. So when I fell, people noticed, like, it wasn't just a little fragile little girl that tripped and, keep going. It was like everything stopped because I fell. And so they came and checked, I scraped up my leg, whatever. Fast forward, what wasn't apparent was that I had landed on a rusty surveyor's pipe, and it had gouged. My full weight landed on the side of my leg, on my thigh, and punctured all nerve endings. And I'll spare all the graphic. It was very gross. And I have a very weak stomach probably stemming from that happening, because it was very gross and it didn't show because we wore dresses, right? So my dress probably came down to the top of my knee. Below my knee, I was just kind of scraped up. No big deal, a little bloody, but no big deal. But it wasn't until closer inspection, I don't know what prompted it again. This is a long time ago. They saw the hole in my leg. And oh my. My mom was called. We lived a distance from the campground, so it took her a while to get there. Took me to the ER, have it checked. They put, now I don't remember, 7 or 8 stitches in this big gaping hole on my leg and called it good. Cleaned it up, whatever. It was not good. And it got very infected. And I don't know all the medical terms for it, but I can remember we lived in Santa Rosa at the time, California. And those 7 stitches started healing together, but the hole in my leg was like gaping in between each stitch. So it wasn't even like, hello. Anyway, I remember laying in the back seat of the car. We were driving back to Santa Rosa. My mom ended up taking me to a plastic surgeon because clearly there needed to be more wisdom, more specialty with this because of the infection, because of whatever. Anyway, I don't remember now how many months of treatment it took. They had to kill the infection before they could do plastic surgery and do skin grafts to fill in the gaping hole from this rusty pipe that punctured, right? It ended up, the end result of that episode was like 51 or 52 stitches in the shape of a horseshoe on my upper thigh. And I remember daily, my mom having to clean this hole in my leg and the dressing. And she would pour a bottle of hydrogen peroxide total every day to bubble out all the infection and all that. And it was horrendous for a 7-year-old to experience that. And I vividly, it's bizarre, because I would try to go to sleep at night and I could just see just a little bit below that dressing. And as a little kid, I don't know, I probably made it all up. Like I saw shapes and I saw, little gremlin looking eyeballs looking out, whatever. But it was crazy making back then. And what I didn't anticipate was that it gave me an edge. It gave me a role. And, in my studies through my life, you study your birth order. You read about the roles in the family and what your title is and what did you play in your family and how did this, we did all that. And I've done all that. And they fit. Like there was nobody arguing. Absolutely, I fit my role. And there were many things Kathi couldn't do because Kathi's not coordinated. Kathi falls at the thought of if there's even the thought of a piece of gravel on the road, she's going to trip. Like, it was just a given through my whole life. It started when I was 7. But let me just tell you, as I'm moving forward for no reason, I remember, and those were the days when you're trying to be cool, right? You want to impress people. Young girls, they want people to look and they want, you want to be cute. You want to be all that. And my brother he was like a young version of Tom Selleck in high school. Like he was, holy cow, like off the charts gorgeous, like drop dead, like stop traffic. Here's Keith. I mean, whoa. And I'm not exaggerating. He was all that. He was very tall. I forget now in high school if he was 6'6", 6'5", extremely coordinated, like the star quarterback, the star, everything he did was an all-star. He was all-star. And I would walk with him. I was 3 years older than he was. And we'd walk to high school together. sometimes, not always. But when we did, it was inevitable every single time. We'd just be walking along and my ankle would give out and I would like start to fall. I would start to go down. And it would be right when there'd be a whole group of people that he was wanting to impress, probably a cute girl, who knows, and he'd do the eye roll and he'd go, Kat, what is it? It was like I blew the whole moment. Like the whole vibe was shot at that time, right? And these are memories that come up for me to share, to paint a picture, right? For me, and I didn't even realize it. That it was something that was going to develop to where the term victim would be like in neon lights. But I didn't feel it. I thought victims felt sorry for themselves. I didn't. I thought victims used excuses so that they wouldn't have to clean house. I didn't. I worked harder than heck. Like I was always busy. I was always fixing, always mothering. I was always nurturing. I was always doing. And I didn't realize that undercurrent of victim was there. And maybe even the story of Cinderella, I could identify personally with that. Not that my family were the stepsisters, the mean witch, the icky stepmother, and this isn't about my family now. This is about me. This is all about me. This is how I saw my life and how I saw my interaction with people. I didn't know. It wasn't part of my conscious. It wasn't like a deliberate, okay, I'm going to have my ankle go out right here so I can make a scene and people will laugh and I'll look really cool and embarrass my brother. No, it wasn't like that. It wasn't like a premeditated, but it also laid groundwork to where, of course, Kathi would fall. Of course she can't do that because look at her leg. Of course she can't do this because, she's shy. Now she's self-conscious because now everyone made fun of my scar. With a young girl, and you go to the swimming pool and here it looks like you were part of Jaws and the shark attacked your leg. Like seriously, it was that noticeable. It was that shocking when people would see the scar. It was awful for a young girl. It was very traumatic. And I did a lot of work around that episode in my life. I didn't realize, and I'm trying to connect these dots, how far to take that. Because fast forward, we don't need to go into age. That's not the point. The point is, as I grew up, my coordination did not improve. I held on to, I can't because this can't happen because. No, I don't do that because. And it was understandable. I'm trying to feel my way through the story because there's a point to it. And when I was, the year was 2004, and I had just escaped. Many of you have heard this story, and I'm going to hit the high points of it to tie in because it does tie in. I was married to an abusive man. And I had tried to leave. I had tried to escape 32 times. So I fit the classic mold of domestic violence, right? Like that's classic. When women try to leave and they go back, they try to leave and they go back for all different reasons. My reason for putting up with it, I thought, was very righteous. And my whole life, I was very focused on being a godly wife. Like I had to be right. It didn't matter what people of, quote, the world thought of me. It didn't matter what judgment I came under with society. It didn't matter. I didn't care about any of that. I had to be doing what God wanted me to do. I had to be, according to the Bible, what wives do or not do. It was really interesting why, out of all the time sequence of my life, I chose to honor that at that time of my life. That husband was not my first husband, and I had no problem leaving previous husbands. I didn't leave and go back 32 times with any other husband. So that wasn't like a pattern for me. This was definitely a standout. And we've been through all the therapy and all the overthinking and analyzing and all the, goodness. My point in bringing this up is because by the time I did finally leave and I made my escape and stayed gone, it was 2 weeks that I was safe, that my body started reacting. And it started with exhibiting symptoms where my toes would tingle. Like when your foot would go to sleep and it would tingle, like when it's starting to wake up after it's been, that's what both feet felt like. Started with my toes and then gradually worked up both feet, gradually worked up both legs. So it was progressing beyond just the toes. And after the tingling, it would be numb. And it got to be where I couldn't feel anything. Like I couldn't feel if I was walking on the bottom of my foot, the side of my foot, the top of my, like I had no sense of balance at all. I couldn't feel. And I was managing a resort on the Oregon coast. And I had to step down because I couldn't do site tours. I couldn't do room checks. I couldn't stand at the front desk. I couldn't do all the duties that I needed to in that position. And so I believe that was probably the last time I was able to be employed in an employment situation ever. That was in 2004. And then all the help, right? So I needed help. My son was in high school at that time, and I was very, what's the word? I was adamant. I was not going to give in. I didn't want my body to think that what it was doing was okay. I didn't want to give myself permission to be, quote, handicapped or, quote, disabled. Like those words were not allowed. Like they were nowhere at all. I wouldn't use a cane. I wouldn't use a wheelchair. Oh my gosh, no. I mean, like absolutely no. I remember going to the football games with a crutch. From one of the times I fell, broke my ankle. It happened often, not often, several times. But I wanted my body to feel like this is temporary. Like this is just a moment in time. We're going to recuperate and be normal. It's going to be normal. So I want you to feel this push me, pull you that was part of my world. On one hand, I didn't feel the victimhood because I was so positive and because I was working against what I thought victims did. Right? I didn't want to give in and let my body think that it was disabled because that's what a victim would do. Okay. But I didn't realize that that was the same coin. When you're working against something, it's still the same coin as though if you're letting it happen and being a victim. Same coin, different emphasis, right? And this was what I was learning. As time went on, I could no longer use the crutch. Like that was not wise. It was structurally messing up my back. I remember being told, Kathi, you need to use a cane. You're leaning. It's affecting structurally. It's affecting your back. It's affecting your alignment. And so I did. And so fast forward beyond that, I was 13 years. By the time I went to every specialist, I had every scan. They formed specialist panels trying to figure out what was causing this issue with my legs. Nothing was showing up. All my results, my MRIs, I even had a specific MS screening. They were checking me for neurological issues, of course. My dad passed away and ALS was the underlying reason for his death. And so initially that was my first go-to, like maybe this is hereditary. You know, I was the oldest child. Maybe this is, so we searched it. We were trying to figure what in the heck. Nothing was showing up. Nothing. And I remember asking, you know, this clearly there is something not right. Like I'm so far from normal. I can't walk. I can't feel normal. But I would bluff. I would make it be okay. And I would stand in pictures. A lot of people didn't know that I was the way I was because I didn't want the attention brought to me. Because what do you do with that? You know what? It had to be positive, and I didn't know how for it to be positive when we didn't know what was even going on, right? So 13 years later, I finally got a diagnosis, and it was idiopathic, which means they didn't have a clue, but they had to wrap this up. There had to be a bow put on it. I couldn't insurance, all the government help, all the whatever, there had to be a diagnosis and I couldn't get one because they couldn't find a cause. So my diagnosis was idiopathic and they wrapped it up, sealed it up, and I was permanently disabled. But that wasn't the worst of it. Beyond that, they labeled it progressive, idiopathic, progressive peripheral neuropathy, right? Because it was inching its way up my lower extremities. Well, and that is the part that eventually, that's what did a number on my head. That was like a death sentence right there. Because I don't know about you, but when you're numb, and which I was, from my toes to my waist, by the time this all took place, I wasn't paralyzed. I could feel when I had to go to the bathroom. I had sensation, but not anything close to normal. There's not much difference between your waist and your vital organs, your heart, your lungs, right? What if they don't get the memo to work? What if, that's like curtains. And I was young. I wasn't old. And it was like, in that moment, it was like, oh my gosh. For years, I would fluctuate between diverting, like, I'm going to just stay busy. I'm going to keep my mind off this. It doesn't work. It doesn't matter if I concentrate on my issues. It doesn't matter if I focus on my health. It's not making a difference. Anyway, I'm still not feeling it, right? Nothing I can't feel. I tried every kind of product, that's why I have recommended so many, because there are so many phenomenal products out there. And I had great success with several. And some are category creators. Like there's no other product like the ones I used. And I did get results, and it's phenomenal. But this segment of videos is not about product testimonials. I could give them, and I have. But that's not the purpose for why I'm talking about this. Because the bottom line, when I identified as a victim, I fought it tooth and nail. And when I couldn't stay positive thinking about it, I wouldn't. And I would set it aside, and I would overwork, and I would overproduce, and I would overhelp. And this is where, and I'm going to toot my own horn for a minute, because I have skills that seriously are off the charts, that have been used. God has used the things that I have been through and cultivated a spiritual awareness that I would not have had. I know that for sure. I know it. I know there's a spiritual sensitivity. There is a knowing that now, even today, even right this minute, I can feel when I'm supposed to continue talking about this topic and when I'm supposed to back off. When it's supposed to transition to another, I'm sensitive, and I'm feeling my way through, right? I can spot victim behavior. I can spot when people don't know what to do with a situation, with a diagnosis, with a relationship. I can spot the behaviors they pull. Yeah, we're not going to talk about that. I'm going to stay busy. I got to work. I got to stay busy. I got to work. Don't you know? I've got to work 80-hour weeks to provide for myself. I've got to work. I've got a child. We tell ourselves these stories because it's our own survival. It's a survival mechanism. And I developed it and perfected it during the height of the victim years. What I didn't know is that you can have victim traits and everything be still true. For example, I'll never forget this one time. I went to a chiropractor when I was living in Las Vegas, and I don't remember now why I went. Honestly, I don't remember if it was to try to get feeling back or just to maybe to have an assessment to get things put back in place because I was so out of whack. I honestly don't remember the purpose of it, but I saw this chiropractor and at this point I was using a walker, and I actually was getting around fairly good. Even though I couldn't feel, I had to watch where I was walking, but with my walker, I could do it. And I could get around, I could do stuff. He walked in and he said, "How long have you been using that walker?" And I go, "Well, it's keeping me safe. It's, I have to use this. There's no not using it." And he goes, "Just set it over there and stand up and walk." Oh my gosh. Oh my. Talk about, I didn't even know the word trigger. I didn't know that phrase yet in my adventures. But this guy pushed every button inside me. I'm like, "What are you talking?" I go, "You're just telling me to leave my walker right there and just get up and stand and walk to you? Like, I can't do that. I don't have any feeling in my legs." And he wasn't buying it. He wanted me to just leave that walker right there and just stand up, feeling or no feeling, and just walk. He was calling me on my bullshit. But I didn't know, because I thought I believed my own story. Because it was true. I didn't have any feeling. And I believed the story that I can't walk if I can't feel. I have to be safe because I'll fall. Right? Anyway, I did not go back to that chiropractor, but this is for some of you, like, I don't even know how you guys are going to connect these dots for your own life. To me, this feels a little rambly, and I'm going to tie it together as best I can. But again, this story is for you. I've lived it. I've already done it. I've analyzed the heck out of these stories. And these are for you. Just sharing, and the anger inside, like, how dare he humiliate me like that? How dare he put me in a situation that was so awful? And so I felt so demeaned, like he blew up my greatest fear, my greatest weakness, because I couldn't feel, I couldn't walk. Are you feeling this with me? All the can'ts, I didn't know those are victim feelings. And I didn't know that what I expect, I'm going to get. He didn't elaborate. He didn't explain. Now, Kathi, if you follow through with what I'm saying, this is going to help you feel empowered. And he didn't go into any of that positive, nothing. And do you know, when I got back to the house from that appointment, I was so mad. And I knew if I had left that walker and tried to walk, I would have fallen. And do you know what I did in the parking lot in the complex where I lived? I got out of the car and I fell right there on the sidewalk with my walker. Yeah. We make ourselves right by the beliefs that we hold dear. And who wouldn't believe that? Right? Because it was true. We think the stories we tell ourselves are right or wrong based on whether or not they're true or false. And that's honestly irrelevant. If, which I didn't do, I did not try the flip side. I didn't try. Okay, if now I've just fallen, I'm going to get up. pull myself together. Nothing broke, nothing, this is just par. Yeah, this always happens because I'm not athletic. All these stories of who I really am, right? Because I'm not coordinated. My family is. I'm not sportsy. I'm not athletic. They are. I'm not. Right? This is how these stories follow through your life. Guess what else showed? I was a screaming victim in my relationships with people. They had to help me. Right? And he's such a good man, and he's so helpful with Kathi. He does things because she can't. And they're such good-hearted, they put up with so much because, Kath, she's a handful. And that was true. But are you feeling this? These stories we believe about ourselves, the victimhood, the victim, I can't, I won't, I need, help me, do this for me. I can't do it by myself. What would I do if it wasn't for you? Right? These are all victim stories that I didn't even see in myself. And honestly, these are many, many, many years later, and I'm still, there's layers and these planetary adjustments and all the energies that are coming through that are exposing all the deep layers of things that we haven't seen before. I am still seeing layers of this shit in me now. I can still spot it. It's like, what? And thank you. Thank you. Thank you that I caught that again, a deeper layer. I'm going to heal it. I got to shine a light on it. If I don't see it, if I don't address it, it will get buried, and it'll be like that hole in my leg that didn't have enough sutures for it to heal together. It's going to be a gaping, infected hole. And the visual I had with that in my leg has translated to a visual I have of my own areas that because I wasn't willing to call it what it was. I didn't know. Feeling sorry for myself or overcoming, sounding over positive, over confident, just overboard. It was all for a purpose. So I can come on this recording and I can talk to those of you that maybe you didn't have a mystery illness. Maybe you have a bona fide disability, and there are tons of them, and they're growing. The labels of things that are wrong with people are unbelievably, astronomically growing by leaps and bounds. There are more and more and more. It is my belief that our bodies are doing their part to get our attention, to wake us up. Interesting that I would lose feeling to try to get my attention. And it was trying to get my attention because why? Because I wasn't willing. I could not see in myself because it might hurt. It might be ugly. It might be awful. It might not be positive. So I'm not going to look. I'm not going to feel. So my body tried to get my attention in that same way. Do you see the parallel with this? Our relationships. Did I know I was playing a victim when I got married so many times? And each husband was so helpful, and each husband was so... No. And they fit more labels than I did. It was like a dance. It was like a toxic, dysfunctional dance among all of them. And they are not the point. The point was me. And I didn't see it because I didn't want to hurt. I didn't want to face the fact that Kathi might not be right. And Kathi might be a mess. And Kathi might have issues that go back so far and it's overwhelming. And what do? Where do you even start? So I didn't. And I focused on everybody else. And I built businesses that were phenomenal. And I had skills, and I did hair that was off the chart. Built esthetician salons. I had those are all topics for other shows. The point is, until we're willing to just stop with the stories, how many relationships do you have to have that are controlling you, that you feel like you have no voice? You're walking on eggshells. You can't be yourself. Your poor kids. Holy cow. Daddy's coming home and mom, oh my gosh, it's going to happen again. And so the kids are like, and this is how the cycle just passes on. And it goes on and it goes on. Next thing you know, the kids are choosing mates that are just like the reenactment of the initial movie, right? That's that saying, hurt people, believe it. Believe it. It's true. And that phrase, it's true. It's perfect because it's all true. Even if I'm wrong, if I believe it, it's true for me. And this is where I can feel. I know the last couple of days I have not been on calls. I haven't been online because I knew I had to come through. I had to do this. I had to do this story. And it's like, why? I don't want to dig all this up again. Why? People that know me know about my mystery illness. They know about it, and they know that I've overcome. They know what role it played. What I didn't know is that timing is everything. And I will not second guess God. And I will not need my own answers to questions before I follow the prompting in my soul. Not anymore. It's bulletproof, you guys. It's bulletproof. And I don't care. Literally, I am at the point, and I have been here for a while, when it's in my soul, it's out my mouth. And I don't have to know why. I don't have to connect any dots. If I do, don't care. But now it's crystal clear to me why. The gift that I was given with the quantum cellular reboot process, why that had to be shelved, why that had to be set aside, because I had so much excavation to do inside me. I had so much. I couldn't focus on me and my healing and be so busy distracted and healing and helping other people heal. I had to stop and focus on me first. I had to put my own oxygen mask on first. And now I can see. Now it's like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. You guys can feel it. And I've talked about this in other calls. Everyone can feel the planetary shift. You can feel the change in the air. We are right on the cusp of unbelievable things happening. We don't have time to fool around. There's no time and space in the spirit dimension. But God knows, the universe knows. And you guys that are screwing around, and I'm talking really straight and firm, because some of you have relationships that you're dancing the dance. You're letting people get away with murder. You're letting abuse happen to you. You are not stepping into who you really are, because it might cost you. You know what it'll cost you? I'm not even going to go there. Not even going to go there, because it's not for me to say. It's not. But there's people to impact. There are souls waiting for why you are here on this earth at this time. And those of you that can feel my story, you feel inside, there are grooves, there are files in your brain. I don't care if it's in the bloodline of your family. I don't care how many generations it goes back. I don't care. None of that matters. The point is, there is healing for all of us, and it's different for each person. But the gift that I have been given is fast. It's complete. It is deep. It pulls the core wounding out. The trauma wounds, the generational bullshit, I call it, that has gone on that people wouldn't address. It wasn't time. And it's not for me to analyze every single, right? I was given a gift, and I'm here to serve. Those of you that feel it on your end of the magnet, and I am on the other end, and you can feel a pull, reach out to me. Send me a message. I've got, and especially with this Black Bold Friday, the normal charges for this process that we go through is fast. We do 90-minute sessions, and it's all done on Zoom. It's done virtually. People across the board feel unbelievable relief. It feels physically, you can feel a shift. You can feel like a burden, like a boulder is lifted off your shoulders. And it's different for each person. And I'm not going to go into all that. We can do it sidebar. But that is part of the purpose for this call. There is hope. There is life. There is thriving. Your soul and your spirit can soar. You can get on and be effective with people that need you now. Not later. Not, maybe this summer when the weather's better, I'm pretty busy right now, and I need to really work, and I need to really, right? We just tell ourselves all these stories, and it's up to you. It's up to you, because you are right. It's true. All of it is true. I want to be the one to shine a light so that if you can feel it in your soul, you can make choices and make changes. Okay. You guys, this has been amazing. I didn't know it was going to take these turns, and it's okay. This has been awesome. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I love you all.